Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Tiffany Graham. I'm here bringing the quick tip for this week to you, and I'm very excited to talk to you about this specific subject. I actually picked it. It was health goals, how to go from sabotage to success. And just a little bit about my background. I'm actually coming to you from Colorado Springs, Colorado, and Springs Integrated Health. We're a Wellness Way affiliate. And I grew up high-level athlete, played college volleyball and professionally overseas. And of course, I had very high-level expectations and goals for myself. And so with that, with reading books, reading articles, having coaches, different life coaches or actual sports coaches, I've learned a lot about how to reach health goals, and also even just helping my patients reach their health goals and how to define them. So I've come up with a few things that I want to share with you today that I believe will really start to set the stage. I'm not going to have all the answers, but really start to set the stage for how to really get what you want out of life and to live to your potential. Because I really believe that there is greatness in every single one of you. And I really believe that as long as we get out of the way and let that greatness come out, and that's one thing that I love every single day, is helping that greatness come out of people and celebrating with them. But then also being their cheerleader if they need it too. So let's get it going. First thing, the definition of goals. So the goal is the object of a person's ambition or effort, an aim or a desired result. So it's that end point. Where do you want to go? So goals, I'm not going to say goals aren't important, but I'm going to talk about what goals are versus habits. And the definition of goal is an endpoint where you want to get to that desired result, which you have to define because you need to know where you're going, and then you can work backwards from there. There are three problems with goals. So first thing is, it takes a lot of willpower and self-discipline. And if you think of willpower as like a muscle, so if I hold this cup right here, I can hold it for a pretty long time, but then eventually my arm's gonna start to drop because I'm gonna get tired. And if you think of that, you all have experienced that in your life where you have made a goal, said I'm going, like best example is New Year's resolutions. How long do they usually last? What, a few weeks? People, by the time February rolls around, we're all back to our old habits again, because habits are actually more powerful, which we'll get to in a second. But goals that require willpower, eventually you're gonna get tired, and you only have so much willpower to give. And we've all been in that place where we've been frustrated by not having that willpower sustain. Another problem is that there's an end point. So once you get to that goal, I've had this, it's like once you get to that goal and you're so excited to get there, and then all of a sudden you realize because you're a goal-oriented person that you have to set another goal. So, and then you don't really get to celebrate that goal as much. So that's another problem that I see. The third one is one that I always do. Focus too much on the goal. I've been told by coaches and mentors before, just focus on that goal until you get there. But the problem with that, with me and probably a lot of you, is that all I do is end up focusing on how I'm not at that goal yet. and then that paralyzes me and gets me frustrated, which creates negative self-talk and negativity. And that's gonna slow down your progress of actually getting to the goal, or even stall it out altogether. So biggest thing is don't beat yourself up. And don't focus too much on the fact that you're not there. Make the goal and then work backwards from there. So let's talk about habits, because that's my favorite. And once I started learning, I read this article a couple years ago about the difference between goals and habits, and a light bulb just went on. Because the frustrations that I had with not making my goals, because I'm a high achiever, and I'm sure a lot of you are, and that you have things that you want in your life. And once I started learning the definition of why a habit is different, why it's important to focus on that every day. So let's go into it. Habit, a settled or regular tendency or practice, especially one that is hard to give up. So imagine if your habits actually got you to your goal. And so what I love is it's a settled or regular tendency. Consistency is key to making any goal. But if it's a habit, then it's going to be that much easier to get to. what's interesting is that there's actually research that shows that there's 40% of our waking hours actually all consist of habits. So almost the majority of your time when you're awake, all you're doing are habits. And imagine if your habits were healthy habits and how powerful that would be. It's a compounding effect. Another third thing that I would recommend doing is you want to start small. Start with small, easy things that you can start to do every single day. There's a really great book that I would recommend looking at. It's called The Power of Habit. And it's actually a way that you can change habits into good ones. But basically what it goes through is that there is always a trigger, then you have the habit, and then you have the reward. And the trigger and the reward never change, but the habit can. But the problem is the only way you can change the habit is if you make the same reward, and the trigger is always going to be the same, but it has to have the same reward. So for example, you can switch and flip it out for something that you already enjoy. So I love brownies, and I'm completely gluten-free and egg-free, but there are healthy versions of brownies where I'm going to still be able to enjoy and get the reward of enjoying the brownies without having to eat something that my body is allergic to and that is going to create inflammation. Okay. I love Tony Robbins, so I have a quote here. He once said, it's actually in his Netflix video, many people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, and they underestimate what they can do in 10 years. So imagine if you created those long-lasting, healthy habits, and they added and compounded over 10 years, where would you be? And when I look back on my life 10 years ago, I didn't even have a degree. I've had my practice for 5 years. I've only had my license for 7. I was just starting out chiropractic school, and the way my life has changed with small things throughout that time, my life is completely different. So think about, many people underestimate where you can be in 10 years, and really 10 years flies by. Okay. Second issue that I see. First one's goals and habits. Second one is the upper limit problem. This is one I'm learning about right now. I'm actually reading a book called The Big Leap. And what's interesting is that the upper limit problem, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but the upper limit problem is basically your glass ceiling. So this is a glass ceiling. Your glass ceiling for how much love, money, success, happiness that you deserve in your life. And so it's based on your beliefs about yourself, your beliefs about what should be. And so those beliefs usually are ingrained in us, and there is a way to change that. But if you start, let's just say you start, the best example I have seen in my life is actually people will get sick or injure themselves right after something really great has happened in their life. And it's a subconscious thing. So one of the main ways that you can start to, if you recognize, first thing you have to do is recognize that you're hitting what's called an upper limit problem, or that glass ceiling, and you're trying to sabotage that so you come back down to where you think you should be. So one of the biggest things that you can do is first recognize it, and then second, find out find out what your zone of genius is. So in the book, it talks about your zone of genius. And what that is something that makes you come alive. And that's where you are using all of your talents and your gifts to the best of your ability. There's certain things that we are good at, but they don't just make us come alive inside. And so when you find something that you love that makes you come alive inside, that is your zone of genius. And when you live there, you can smash through that glass ceiling. And so what I would encourage all of you to do is do things that you love in your life, and do them as much as you can, and find out also why you love them. And that really segues into the next thing that you need to figure out if you want to turn your goals and reach your health goals and get to success, is finding out your big why. Most people, when they come to me, I have people that want to lose 150 to 100 pounds, and we always talk about why. And yes, that's where you want to go. That's your goal, right? To lose 50 to 100 pounds. But the why behind that has to be something that's not just, oh, I want to fit into my skinny jeans. Well, why? Part of that has to be, and the most powerful big why has to be connected to emotion. So it has to make you emotional. So there's 3 things a big why should do inside of you when you think of it. So it should spark emotion. Most people get emotional about their kids, if you have kids, their family members or their partners. The second thing it should do is it should create focus. When you think about your big why, it should snap. Like if you start beating yourself up because you don't get to you're not getting to your health goal, and you think about your big why, it should snap you back into focus and get you right back on track to where you want to be. Okay. The third thing is it has to be relevant to your daily life. It can't just be something that you never think about. Like, for example, kids are relevant to your daily life because you have them and you see them pretty much every day, right? And so it has to be something that is relevant to, and because it'll come up all the time, and that will help maintain your motivation. It'll help with the willpower to create new habits. So back to the goals versus habits, you only need enough willpower to create a new habit, and then the habit takes it from there. And so knowing your big why actually helps fuel that willpower to create that new habit. Another thing about the big why is that it's usually connected to your ultimate purpose and your values, what you believe you bring to the world, what you believe your purpose in the world is. I know I'm getting really deep here for the quick tips, but if you understand what your common values are, there's tests online that you can take to start picking out your values. That can also help find your big why. Okay, last but not least, you're doing better than you think you are. And that's a big one, actually. I believe so often we get discouraged. And so number one, remember that if you got out of bed today, you're doing better than a lot of people. If you even made a goal and you showed up, most of the effort and, well, most of even getting to a goal is just showing up. And then what happens is, again, you need enough willpower to create a habit, and then it becomes automatic, and those habits will add up. So all of a sudden, I don't know if any of you, I've had this happen in my life where I created new habits, and I did this. I didn't just focus on the goal and the fact that I couldn't get there, but I just created new habits. And I woke up one day and I had reached my goals, and I didn't even realize it. And so I would encourage you that if you have big goals that you're going after right now, number one, stop comparing yourself to others. I think social media definitely contributes to that. I had one of my favorite pastors said, stop comparing your blooper reel to somebody else's highlight reel, right? On social media, all we do is put, it takes 10 pictures to get the best one. Or we're putting on only the highlights of when we go on vacation. We're not putting the nitty-gritty of life necessarily, or not everyone puts the nitty-gritty of life onto social media and that vulnerability. But everyone has it. Everyone goes through tough times. Everyone has failure. Everyone has problems. Everyone has glass ceilings that they hit that they have to get through. Even myself and other Wellness Way doctors, we're the healthcare resources for you, right, as patients, and we screw up all the time. We're not perfect, but I believe that's the beautiful and powerful thing, is that we all have a passion for helping you get to your goals, and that we all have a heart for helping people, because maybe we've been there. I actually don't have, a lot of doctors say that a lot of doctors that are with us say they have a story. And I know Doc this last week was talking about our story. And the greatest story, I believe, is the one that you don't have to have. And that's actually where I'm coming from. I've been getting adjusted since I was 5 years old. My family always ate healthy. My aunts actually used to own a health food store growing up. They back in the 90s, they had vitamins and organic food when it wasn't so big as it was today. I never grew up with, I've never had a migraine in my life. I never grew up with health problems. I barely got sick. I actually never even had a pediatrician. And I consider myself, and my two sisters too, so it was our entire family. There's literally so much health in my family that I knew that we did something different, especially when I started to see other families and how they were going to the doctor all the time, or there was always the sick kid, or they had the medicine cabinet full of prescriptions. We didn't have that. I don't even have ibuprofen in my house right now, or aspirin, or any of those painkillers. And I've never had to. And so I consider myself so lucky that I want to bring that to everyone that I can, and give everyone hope that they can have the life of their dreams. They can have the life that they believe that they want. They can have, but the first thing is to get the life that you want, and to create the life that you want is that you have to know where you're going. And so goals, so let's go back. Focus on habits. Make your goals, but focus on your habits. One thing that I do with goals is I have a place where I put my goals so that I can see them on a daily basis, but I don't necessarily focus on them completely. It's more of a subconscious thing. Habits, the upper limit problem, your big why, and lastly, you're doing better than you think you are. Every little change makes a difference. So I thank you guys so much for listening to me today on my first quick tip. And I hope you have a beautiful day. It's a wonderful day for wellness.